Have you ever wondered why the person with the least experience is often the first to volunteer for a complex task? It is a striking psychological phenomenon that plays out in every classroom, boardroom, and social hierarchy across the globe. We watch as individuals with a mere surface-level understanding of a topic speak with the unwavering conviction of a seasoned master. Meanwhile, the true experts often hesitate, their minds clouded by the vast complexity of what they know they don't yet understand. This disparity creates a strange social reality where the most confident voices are frequently the ones least qualified to lead. The mystery lies in the inverse relationship between how much we actually know and how much we think we know. It is a cognitive glitch that rewards early ignorance with a surge of uncertainty, often propelling the incompetent into positions of power. We often assume that confidence is a natural byproduct of competence, a reward earned through years of diligent study and practice. Yet, in the raw theater of human interaction, confidence often appears long before the skills required to justify it have even begun to form. There is a profound gap between the internal feeling of mastery and the external reality of one's actual performance or knowledge. This creates a hidden mechanism where the initial stages of learning provide a false sense of having it all figured out. Observers of human behavior have noted that a small amount of knowledge can be a dangerous thing for the ego. When we first learn a new skill, we lack the context to see how much deeper the subject actually goes. This is famously known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where people with limited competence overestimate their own ability. At the beginning of any journey, the mind is unburdened by the nuances, exceptions, and deep complexities that define true expertise. Because the beginner cannot see the vast landscape of information they are missing, they perceive the hill they have climbed as the mountain's peak. Charles Darwin once observed that ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge, a sentiment that echoes through modern psychology. He understood that a lack of information acts as a vacuum that the ego is only too happy to fill with a sense of superiority. The human brain is wired to seek patterns and reach conclusions as quickly as possible to minimize the energy spent on uncertainty. When an incompetent person acquires a few basic facts, their brain prematurely declares the puzzle solved, triggering a rush of confidence. This early confidence is a powerful social tool, as other humans are evolutionarily primed to follow those who appear certain of their path. To the tribe, a confident leader, even a wrong one, often feels safer than a hesitant expert who is busy weighing every possible risk. Robert Greene notes that boldness is a primary requirement for power, regardless of whether that boldness is backed by actual substance. The mechanism of early confidence is a psychological shortcut that allows the individual to bypass the grueling work of self-doubt. The smarter person, conversely, is plagued by what is known as the curse of knowledge, where they assume others see the same complexities they do. As the intelligent person learns more, they become increasingly aware of the known unknowns, the vast areas where their knowledge is thin. Bertrand Russell famously lamented that the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves. He noted that the wise are full of doubts, not because they are weak, but because they can perceive the terrifying scale of reality. This creates a tragic loop where the incompetent person gains social momentum while the smart person is still checking their data. The smart person's hesitation is a sign of intellectual integrity, yet in a fast-paced world, it is often misread as a lack of capability. The incompetent person, unburdened by such integrity, moves forward with a speed that the group mistakes for high-level efficiency. Sigmund Freud suggested that our narcissism of small differences can lead us to inflate our own worth to maintain a sense of internal security. When we are incompetent, the ego works overtime to protect us from the painful realization that we are, in fact, at the bottom of the ladder. We see this manifest in digital culture, where armchair experts explain complex global issues with the simplicity of a fairy tale. The biological reality of the brain is that it hates cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable feeling of holding two conflicting ideas at once. To admit incompetence requires the brain to accept that its current model of the world is wrong, which is an energy-intensive and painful process. Instead, the brain of the incompetent person doubles down on its limited view, creating a fortress of certainty that is difficult to breach. Daniel Kahneman's work on What You See Is All There Is explains how we build a coherent story based only on the limited information at hand. The incompetent person has a very small story, making it incredibly easy to keep that story consistent and believable to themselves and others. The smart person has a massive, messy story with 1,000 loose ends, making it much harder to feel, or project, total certainty. Because the crowd values a clear, simple narrative, the loud beginner often wins the argument against the quiet professional. In a corporate environment, this often looks like the confident amateur who gets promoted because they speak with authority in every meeting. The expert provides caveats and warnings, which the group perceives as analysis paralysis or a lack of can-do attitude. The amateur provides a simple solution that sounds great in a slide deck, even if it ignores the fundamental laws of the industry. We see this in the rise of gurus who offer 5-step plans to master life, business, or happiness without ever mentioning the hard work involved. The person who knows the work is hard will never promise a 5-step plan, and therefore, they struggle to find an audience in a world that wants a fix. In social circles, the person who knows the least about a topic is often the one who speaks the longest, drowning out the nuances of the informed. The group values the entertainment of a confident story over the dry accuracy of a factual breakdown provided by a specialist. Even in our own self-assessment, we tend to think we are above average in nearly every category, from driving ability to ethical behavior. This illusory superiority is a shield that keeps us from the depressing reality that we are often quite mediocre at most things we attempt. The smarter individual often suffers from imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud specifically because they know how much more there is to learn. They begin to downplay their achievements, fearing that if they show confidence, they will be exposed as the ignorant people they know exist. Over time, this leads to a confidence gap where the most capable people are the most anxious, while the least capable are the most relaxed. The vacuum of leadership is filled by those who have never had a moment of self-doubt in their lives, often with disastrous results for the collective. This process is reinforced by social proof, where we look at someone's confidence as a signal that they must know what they are doing. If someone stands up and speaks with total conviction, our brains assume they have done the math, even if they haven't even opened the book. This collective bias acts as a tailwind for the incompetent, pushing them higher and faster than their actual skills would ever allow. Marcus Aurelius advised that we should look inward for our sense of worth, yet most people look outward to the reflection in the eyes of others. If the world reflects back that we are confident and capable, we believe it, regardless of our actual performance on the ground. There is a hidden pattern in how the incompetent use jargon as a smokescreen to mask their lack of deep understanding. They use the words of the experts without the soul of the expertise, creating a surface-level hologram of competence that fools the untrained. By mimicking the outward appearance of success, they bypass the internal growth required to actually achieve it. This linguistic mimicry allows the incompetent to navigate high-level spaces while remaining intellectually stagnant. Another pattern is the fear of the expert, where the incompetent person will actively avoid or disparage those who actually know the subject. In these cases, the expert is seen as a buzzkill or a gatekeeper who is trying to make things more complicated than they need to be. The smarter person, sensing this hostility, often retreats to avoid the social friction of correcting someone who doesn't want to be corrected. The mind of the incompetent person seeks closure, a final answer that allows them to stop thinking and start acting. The intelligent mind is comfortable with ambiguity, realizing that most answers are temporary and subject to new data. We must also consider the role of toxic positivity in reinforcing unearned confidence within modern organizations. If a culture demands no bad news and unwavering optimism, it creates a perfect breeding ground for the incompetent to thrive. In such a culture, the person who points out a fatal flaw is labeled as not a team player, while the person who ignores the flaw is a visionary. The smarter person, who sees the iceberg ahead, is forced to choose between their career and their commitment to the truth. Carl Jung spoke about the persona, the social mask we wear to make a definite impression upon others while concealing our true nature. The incompetent person often becomes their persona, fully believing the mask they have created for the benefit of the world. By losing themselves in the role of the expert, they become immune to the feedback that might actually help them improve. This reveals a brutal realization about the nature of human competition and the distribution of influence in society. The fast confidence of the incompetent is a biological bug that has become a feature of our social and professional hierarchies. We are not naturally evolved to detect subtle competence. We are evolved to detect obvious confidence and follow its lead. Truth is often quiet and hesitant, while error is loud and aggressive, and in the short term, loud usually wins the day. We are operating with an outdated social radar that prioritizes the display of knowledge over the utility of knowledge. The incompetent person is often a better performer because they are not distracted by the complexities that occupy the expert's mind. They are not intentionally deceiving others. They are simply the first victims of their own lack of perspective. To them, the smart person's nuance looks like confusion, and their own simplicity looks like the ultimate form of clarity. We must realize that the peak of Mount Ignorant is a place where most people spend a significant portion of their lives. When we feel that sudden surge of total certainty about a new topic, it is often a warning sign that we are standing on that peak. The human mind will always prefer a confident lie to a hesitant truth because the lie provides the illusion of safety and control. This means that true mastery requires the courage to walk through the valley of despair where confidence is low but learning is high. It is a sobering thought to realize that the moments when we felt most sure of ourselves were likely the moments we were most wrong. We have all looked at a complex problem and thought, how hard could it be? Only to realize we were completely out of our league. How many times have you judged an expert's decision because you didn't understand the 100 variables they were trying to balance? How many times have you mistaken someone's stutter or hesitation for a lack of knowledge, when it was actually a sign of their depth? Self-reflection is the only bridge across the valley of despair. Yet it is a bridge that many refuse to even step onto. We must ask ourselves if we are willing to feel stupid for a year to become truly competent for a lifetime. Are you brave enough to trade the instant gratification of unearned confidence for the slow, painful growth of real expertise? The antidote to this psychological trap is a lifelong commitment to intellectual humility and the constant questioning of our own certainty. It requires the honesty to say I don't know when the world is demanding a yes or a no that we aren't ready to give. We must learn to look for the quiet experts in the room, the ones who are listening more than they are talking. By valuing the process of learning over the performance of knowing, we protect ourselves from the pitfalls of our own egos. True confidence is not the absence of doubt. It is the ability to act effectively while fully acknowledging the limits of what you know. The history of innovation is the story of those who were willing to be wrong long enough to eventually find what was right. Though the incompetent may win the race to the podium, the smart are the ones who actually build the ground the podium stands on. Let us strive to be the kind of people who value the struggle for truth more than the display of status in our daily lives. The true mark of growth is not how much confidence you have gained, but how much more clearly you can see the gaps in your own understanding.